Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, listeners, to the Political Education for Freedom podcast. I'm Nitra, and today we're diving into the untold stories of Black literature. We're revealing the secrets, the untold stories, the controversies, and the groundbreaking moments that shaped our history, from Baldwin to Du Bois, from Hurston to Morrison. Get ready for a journey through time, uncovering the hidden truths of Black literary giants. But today we're talking about literature, Black literature. Let's dive into the world of James Baldwin, a writer who not only captured the essence of Black experience in America, but also challenged and redefined it. Baldwin's voice resonated with truth that was as unyielding as it was poetic. James Baldwin, of course, a name that echoes through the corridors of Black literature. In an interview with the Paris Review in 1984, so I wasn't born yet. Okay. Baldwin said, "You write in order to change the world." His novel, Giovanni's Room, broke barriers with his bold exploration of sexuality, a move that sparked controversy in both the Black and white communities. Y'all know. Okay, we ain't gonna say much about that. Baldwin's fearless honesty in addressing race and identity made him both a literary icon and a subject of debate. His commentary on America's racial landscape was both deeply personal and universally resonant. He once stated in Notes of a Native Son, and I think I have all James Baldwin books, maybe most of them anyway. So, Notes of a Native Son, he says, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." This encapsulates Baldwin's nuanced view of his homeland, a place he loved deeply but also criticized for its persistent racial injustices. That comment there is actually one that, it actually resonates now, even more now with social media. And to me, some people may not like this, but I think that when a lot of people comment or criticize certain people and certain things and just everything that kind of just happening broadly, I think it is some of that. It's because, I am you, or I am a part of you, that I have the right to criticize you perpetually. I think that people should do that with their government. I mean, I think you should do that, just in general, but we're seeing it a lot more now with social media. His experience as a Black man in America was marked by the stark contrast between the nation's ideals of freedom and the harsh reality of systemic racism, particularly embodied by the Jim Crow laws. In the same 1984 interview with the Paris Review, Baldwin also expressed a profound delusionment, saying, "It comes as a great shock to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance has not pledged allegiance to you." We are seeing that even more and more today than I would think before, not because situations was happening back, not because more situations are happening now than it was before, but because a lot of the situations are now more on display. And so back then, we probably didn't see the reaction or every little reaction someone had to a comment or about a situation. Now we can see everything that everybody is thinking all the time. And so, especially when dealing politically in politics right now, they are basically just openly, outright saying that no, America is not pledging allegiance to black people. I mean, there are some politicians that are actively running on that message, probably on that message alone. So and so it's something that I think, even though he made that comment in 1984, I mean, shoot, 1984. Oh, that was before I was born. But I mean, I guess a lot of what America was doing then, America is still doing now. So this statement reflects black folks' personal journey of realizing that despite our allegiance to America, the country did not afford us the same respect and rights due to the color of our skin. Baldwin's life in America was a testament to the ongoing struggle for equality and recognition in a society that was reluctant to acknowledge its own flaws. Baldwin's views often put him at odds with other prominent leaders of his time. His disagreements with figures like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King were well known. He shared their goals of racial equality and justice. His approach was distinct, and this is, of course, a trend that I see often during this time or during this period of the civil rights era, the time of the 60s or so. It seems as if everyone did have the same goals. It's just everyone had a different route to get there, and everyone, had different approaches to it. So while he shared their goals of racial equality and justice, his approach was distinct. He was critical of Malcolm X's early separatist views and King's pacifist methods, advocating instead for a more nuanced understanding of racial issues. He believed in confronting the uncomfortable truths of American society, insisting that change required acknowledging the deep-stated prejudices and systemic barriers faced by African Americans. Something that I agree with. We need to talk about it. We need to confront it. The uncomfortable parts, if we try to ignore it, that's basically just giving this country and the people in it a free pass. We're not doing anything by avoiding confrontation. For example, he expressed in an interview his nuanced view of the civil rights movement, stating, "I can be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive." Well, I applaud his optimism. He kept a perspective of humanity And that is what is missing today. People are not, we don't see each other as each other. The limited reactions we have with each other makes it even, just puts up a even bigger barrier. And this is another trend. Yesterday we were talking about, oh my gosh. And make sure I edit that out. Oh. So the last time we were talking about Anna Julia Cooper and her requesting that students learn not just reading, writing, math, and arithmetic, but also spirituality. And he brought in that part of education by agreeing that human life is an academic matter. So his perspective contrasts with Malcolm X's more radical stance, especially in his earlier years. Malcolm X in his speeches like the Ballad of the Bullet emphasized a more confrontational approach to achieving racial justice, stating it's liberty or it's death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. I do remember that speech. And that sounds, it sounds similar to Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, your freedom is shackled and chained to mine. And until I am free, you are not free either. That is the truth. Another wish of mine, wish all black people understood that. We are moving further and further away from that thought process, but also while we are moving further away from that thought process, we are becoming more closely shackled and chained together because of that. And that's something we're going to have to deal with, or we may end up finding ourselves in chains again. Some of us are right now. Remember, there is a prison industrial complex. Yes, it is. And we'll talk about that too, because, it's a lot that goes into that. So, meanwhile, Martin Luther King Jr., known for his commitment to nonviolence, often spoke about the power of love and peaceful protest. Of course, in his speech, I have a dream, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of his creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, whatever. Everybody knows that speech. But I bet they don't know that I've been to the mountaintop speech. Oh, man. That speech there. That was a different Martin. That letter from a Birmingham jail was also a different Martin. Jail will make you think like that. It will, though. It really will. Baldwin's position was more about philosophical and existential optimism. Malcolm initially advocated for a more assertive stance against racial oppression. And then you had King that promoted a vision of racial harmony through nonviolent means. Their differing views contributed to a rich and complex discourse on the best path forward for the civil rights movement. That is some of the when you have a lot of opposing sides and opinions on different things, that is when some of the most deepest thought occurs. That's when our brains, the muscle in our brains, are really, really stretched to, a little bit beyond its limits. or a little bit beyond what we feel its limits are, because it forces you to not just think about what is it that you want, but then you also have to add in this other perspective, and then you still have to sort of try and figure out how to map out to get to the same place. Now remember that the goal is the same, but trying to figure out how to get there, that's that push and pull type element that's needed to, exercise the brain muscles. And these guys really, they were really about their life. They exercised those brain muscles because we saw it later on in their sort of, I wouldn't say later in their developments in the movement, we saw how some of their perspectives changed a little bit, still sticking to their initial thought process, but it just has a little bit of a different type of spin on it. And some of their outcomes or some of their goals then addressed the different perspectives that was then added to what their thought process was already. And so that is the process of learning and developing as people. That's something we should all be striving for. Now, his writings, Baldwin's that is, writings and speeches were not just critiques. They were a reflection of his life as a black man in America, navigating a society rife with contradictions and challenges. His intellectual journey was marked by a relentless pursuit of truth, deep love for his country, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Through his words, Baldwin continues to inspire and challenge us to confront the complexities of race, identity, and equality in America. Now, I had some. Did I have some? No. I didn't. Okay. I thought I had a little juiciness into the whole James Baldwin, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, but no, I have some juice for later for an upcoming discussion or upcoming subject. So next we turn to Zora Neale Hurston, a trailblazer whose work celebrated the richness of black culture. Hurston's storytelling, steeped in the folklore and oral traditions of the African American South, brought to life a world overlooked by mainstream literature. Now, Zora, often criticized by her contemporaries for her apolitical stance, stood firm in her belief. In the early stages of her career, she faced a unique set of challenges as a black woman writer in the field dominated by men. We'll see this trend also. Despite her immense talent, Hurston's work often received poor peer reviews, mainly from her male counterparts. Critics like Richard Wright, although I do loved him, I do love his writing. Black Boy and Uncle Tom's Children. I believe that was the latest book that I most recently read again of his. Now he accused her of failing to addressed the serious racial issues of the time, with him dismissing her most famous novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, as lacking in serious thought. Wow. That's something, isn't it? Lacking in serious thought. Just you can have your spin or your way of doing things, and then let me have mine. We all need a little bit of something. I think that was an unfair critique. Boy, I wonder what he would say about Tyler Perry today. Okay, let me not. So Hurston's literary approach celebrated Black rural life and culture through a lens of individual experience. And she was usually at odds with the norms of the Harlem Renaissance, which often emphasized racial struggle and uplift. Despite these criticisms, she found support from some notable benefactors and mentors. One of her most significant supporters was anthropologist Frantz Bois, who encouraged her ethnographic work. Additionally, she received patronage from wealthy philanthropists like Charlotte Mason, who provided financial assistance, albeit sometimes with controlling stipulations. We know that story. This support was crucial in enabling her to pursue her unique literary and anthropological interests. The treatment of Hurston as a Black woman in the literary field was marked differently from that of her male contemporaries. While Black male writers like Langston Hughes and Alain Locke were celebrated for their contributions to the Harlem Renaissance, Hurston's work was often marginalized. Of course, we see a trend. Is another trend we'll often see. Some of these trends are not, they're not new. They just rinse and repeat. Her focus on the internal personal lives of Black individuals, mainly women, was seen as less significant than the broader political and social themes explored by her male peers. This gendered disparity in the literary world not only impacted the reaction of her work, but also highlighted the double burden of race and gender that Hurston and other Black women writers had to navigate. There is that intersectionality again, and this is back during Zora Neale Hurston's time. Despite these challenges, Hurston's work has since been recognized for its profound impact on American literature and its pioneering role in portraying the richness of Black life and culture. Hurston delved into the life of a Black woman seeking her identity, a narrative that was revolutionary for its time. Right, because they didn't even think Black women had identity. Despite criticism and accusations of, romanticizing Black life, Hurston's work remains a testament to the strength and resilience of Black womanhood. Oh, wow. Romanticizing Black life. What's wrong with that? I don't see nothing wrong with romanticizing Black life. Now that's just a trend, romanticizing Black life. Now they just call it the culture. I'm doing it for the culture. Moving on. We'll explore the legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois, a scholar, activist, and founding figure of the NAACP. Du Bois's writings and ideas were instrumental in shaping the discourse on race and equality in America. W.E.B. Du Bois, a titan in the realm of social sciences and a key figure in the NAACP, was known for his rivalry with Booker T. Washington. In Souls of Black Folk, published in 1903, critiqued Washington's approach to racial uplift, advocating instead for political action and civil rights. This intellectual feud highlighted the differing strategies within the Black community for achieving racial equality. Now, I only briefly talked about W.E.B. Du Bois in this episode on Black literature because I want to save that for another episode. I want to get into some juiciness of W.E.B. Du Bois's writing and his rivalry with Booker T. Washington and some of I'ma just call it the most childish intellectual behavior I've ever seen displayed. Boy, they was childish. They were childish. And they put it in writing too. Like they were calling each other names and shit. Like y'all have to hear it. Of course, I'm a read some of it. But I'm saving W.E.B. Du Bois because, Du Bois, I think Du Bois lived till he was like 96 or something. So he has a long history of material that we can dive into. I might even dedicate a whole episode just to him because he is dipping his hands into everybody's shit. And I don't mean dipping his hands. I mean like he got some shit going on over here with this way. He got shit going on over here with this. He has shit going on with Booker T. Washington. He also had a little tiff with Ida B. Wells. She read him to filth. He also had a little tiff with, I want to say, Marcus Garvey. Like W.E.B. Du Bois was everywhere. Okay. I don't know if he was under everybody's radar or if he was the one pointing the radar at everybody. I don't know. That was just a little bit of tidbit of W.E.B. Du Bois. But his contributions to Black literature was, of course, invaluable. There was a lot of writings. He did a lot of speeches. A lot of what he did focused on Black education. And one of the reasons why I admire him so much is because of the huge focus he put into the education of Black people. That was his, life's work, just focusing on education of Black people and how we should go about it. And he had a lot to say about it too. And he said it. But he was also a master with words. Boy, he could. Okay, see, now y'all gonna have me getting into W.E.B. Du Bois. But let me just say this. He could tell you that you need to shut your dumb ass up in the most beautiful language. I mean, the most beautiful weaving of American English. Like, you would have to go back and take a double take like, huh? What you say? Like, wait, what did you say again? Like, he would talk about shooting slugs. Man, he had some slugs that you was getting and you wouldn't even know that they were slugs. I mean, they would probably just go right over your head. You had to be studied. And you had to be an intellectual word wizard to decipher some of his work and some of his language and the way he put it all together, which is why I believe you have people like an Ida B. Wells and a Anna Julia Cooper who could stand up and go toe to toe with him, because they were word wizards too. Now, I think I talked about Ida B. Wells in a sneak peek episode, because I'm going to go deeper into her too, because she wasn't playing with them either. And she stood up to those men about patriarchy. That's another woman who was about women's rights before white women realized they were women and they needed rights. Okay, so now we'll go into the imaginative universe of Octavia Butler. I really like Octavia Butler. So I can read her and I could drift off into a world that I know is not real, but also keeps me feeling like, I'm in a real world fantasy. Like, I'm just not fully in a whole, a full fantasy. It's not all paradise and rainbows. It's some realness to it. And boy, she takes you on a journey, but the way she does it it's immaculate. So Octavia Butler, a visionary who used science fiction as a lens to explore and challenge the boundaries of race, gender, and humanity. In Kindred, she takes us on a time travel journey to confront the horrors of slavery. My favorite, Kindred is my favorite book. And then now, so they adapted it into a series. It was a series on Hulu. Now, I didn't watch it. So I started watching it and then I stopped. But here's why. I don't like to wait for the next episode of something. So I guess you would call me a serial binger. I like to binge on episodes, and I like to get the whole story. So I want to get like 5 or 6 seasons, and where I'm just sitting there binging in, so I don't get lost. Cause hell, I'll cut the show off and then I done forgot what happened. I have to go back and be like, did I see this before? This look familiar. Everything is a deja vu. It's the deja vu because the shit really happened, but I just completely forgot. And a lot of stuff that I ingest, I purposely excavated so that I could get more stuff up in there in my mind. So there's a show called Severance, and it's about how like they do something to your brain where they like shut off a certain part of your brain where you have no idea what you were doing when you're at work, and then you go home and you're just in this sort of world, and it kind of like it gives you very little details about where you are or what is going on in your life, but they give you like basic steps that you just go through every single day. And they they sever off your brain. So a portion of your brain just does not know what the other side is doing. I think I've kind of mastered that at this moment in my some years of being here. I think I've mastered that because I literally cut shit out of my brain. Like, if it's not useful, I can go in there and, cut it out like it's, a cancer. I can go in there with precision, and I will literally cut out every little piece of it and move on and put something else in there. I do that purposely because little personal, but a lot of people see it as like, oh, you just have a bad memory, or oh, you don't pay attention, or you're not focused. No, I don't. I know I'm forgetting that shit on purpose. I think that's probably one of the rudest habits that I have on purpose. Like, a lot of people do that. They not going to admit it, but they forget that shit on purpose because it's not useful to them. But they not going to tell you that. They going to pretend like, oh yeah, I just forgot. You see, that's not what's happening. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to just tell you. Okay. When your sister forget your daughter's name, she didn't just so happen to forget. She forgot her damn name on purpose. She purposely forgot. She said, I don't need that shit. Why do I need to remember her name? I'm sitting right here on side of her. I mean, I'm sure she gonna do something else that's, that's memorable, that's worth keeping it in this mind of mine. Shit, let me just X out her name real quick. Let me just I'll just take that shit out. I'll go back to it later on or something. Or somebody will remind me. I mean, shit. I don't need it right now. It's too much stuff in there. Let me get some of that shit out of there. So, when you see your sister calling your child everybody name but her real name, she took that shit out of her brain on purpose. Now, look at me. I got nieces. I sometimes forget their name. I am just telling on myself. Maybe not, because I probably told my sister that. I probably told her that shit before. Like, what? I don't need to remember that. That's not the point. The point is, I want to tell you what I want to tell you about the child. I don't need to know her damn name. Shit, you know your own damn kids. That is so funny to me, but that is just that is like the God honest fucking truth. Like, if she hear this shit, which maybe I'll hide this episode from her for a while, but if she hear this shit, she'll be like, you know what? Her ass, I knew it. Okay, so anyway, let me get back to Octavia Butler and her work. So, Octavia Butler, her work not only broke the color barrier in science fiction, but also challenged the norms of a genre, of course, traditionally dominated by white males. Hello, white males. There we go again. White males. The nerve of them. Isn't that like white men just they kind of like picked roles, like different positions that they think certain people is supposed to be in, like their ideals. But it has nothing to do with, innate ability or strength. It's only dealing with power. And this is another area where they felt like this is something that a white man is supposed to do. They didn't even let white women do it. When white women did it, they dismissed they shit too. But it's even more dismissed when you black and you're a woman. So I'm not just in the bottom three in the stack, like now you just push me down one more down further to the bottom. With black women, they didn't even imagine that black women had the ability to not only just write, but also to have an imagination. And it's like, how fucking narrow-minded could you be to even think that way? Some people think narrow-minded is just, no, narrow-minded is being able to imagine anybody in any way besides what you see them as. And then society shapes what you see, how you see them. So you just created this shit in your mind. For you to think that black women wouldn't have an imagination. Think about the shit that we had to endure on them slave ships coming in, not sitting next to each other, but crammed next to one another. What type of imagination you had to have to just completely separate yourself from the situation that you're sitting in. And we do that a lot. We do that more than we think, because we really want to get away. Like, you're in such a, horrible situation that your go-to is to get away from it. And the first set of people that I would say that I would go to for anything imaginary would be two black people. Because we had to have imaginations in order to endure some of the shit that we endured on these lands. I think I told y'all I'm always on the aliens side, right? Team Thanos. Go Thanos. Go Thanos. Okay, but yeah, so I don't feel like white people have the capacity to have an imagination for several reasons. I don't know if I want to say even more so now. I guess it's like there's more material out there that convinces me that they don't have the capacity to have an imagination. Even like, so if you think about science fiction films, early in the beginning, where I guess they would consider, some of the first science fiction films that came out, the aliens would look like humans. So like, that's not an imagination. Like, that's not you being creative. That's you just copying yourself and then distorting it a little bit. And even, I wouldn't even say them distorting it a little bit, because some of the stuff that we see in their, science fiction films, as they would call quote unquote aliens or whatever, it's real people that already appear that way, in the world right now. So it's like, that's not an imagination. You just copy some shit that you saw already. Like shit, like people having, webbed feet and shit, or 3 fingers or toes or 1 arm. Like that is normal, not normal. It's not, the majority of people, but people like that exist. So you're not creating something out of this world. You're actually just creating something that is within this world, and you're just putting a different color on it. And look at how we do that. Look how we do with race. They really see people of another race as something different from them. And we're the same species. Yet they see us different. So for them, science fiction is just anything that don't look like me, or anything that's not me, or anything that's a distorted version of me. Like, that's not science fiction. Like, to me, that science fiction is supposed to be out of this world. And I think that white creatives, until they prove me otherwise, they can't see out of this world. They can't imagine beyond this world, and even beyond this planet, because we've gone outside the planet and we've seen, the stars and whatever. We still haven't seen this world, but because the world includes all the planets, not just Earth, because that's what we think. When people say world, we think Earth. No, sir. Sorry. And that's that's exactly my point. They see it as Earth. And then, well, if I write a book or write a movie about people on the planet Pluto, well, then that's science fiction. No. Oh, well, they say Pluto ain't even a planet no more. But anyway, I don't teach science, y'all. I teach history, so don't ask. But yeah, so that just doesn't automatically make it science fiction. But for them, it does. And that's why I think in that area, they held us back. What did the white northerners say about the southern whites in the last podcast? They said that they retarded the South. I think that's what they did, just to that realm or that genre of art. Yeah, they held it back because their lack of imagination. And then come on now, you just don't put little colors on stuff and change this a little bit, squiggly line that, and now all of a sudden, oh, it's science fiction, it's out of this world. No. So I don't think they have that ability until they prove me otherwise. That is my thought. Nope, I don't care. I said it. I said what I said, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes in it. Let me get back to Miss Octavia Butler and her writing, because I want to tell y'all about one of her stories that I personally love. Besides Kindred, all of her work is just, it's just awesome. So her work not only broke the color barrier in science fiction, but challenged the norm, of course, dominated by white males. She stands as a towering figure, not just for her imaginative narratives, but for the profound social commentaries embedded within them. So her novel, Kindred, is a prime example of how she used science fiction to confront the harsh realities of history. So, Butler once wrote, "I began writing about power because I had so little." Yeah, that's something that you'll see resonate in her stories. She frequently placed marginalized characters in position of influence and complexity. Despite her work, Butler faced significant challenges and criticisms. Of course, as a black woman in science fiction, a field where she was a rarity, she often encountered dismissiveness and genre snobbery. Ooh, is that turning your nose up at someone? Why do when I think of the word snobbery, I think English, British. I don't know why. That was just a horrible British accent. I just tried. Maybe y'all didn't hear it. That's cool. So, they often marginalized her work as niche or categorized it outside of mainstream science fiction. Yet she persevered. Of course, that's a typical black woman in you, using her unique perspective to challenge the status quo within the genre. her series Parable, specifically Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, cemented her legacy, offering a dystopian vision that was as unsettling as it was prophetic. In those works, both, she explored themes of community, resilience, adaptability in the face of societal collapse, themes that we see resonate today. Societal collapse. That is one that, wait till I get to it. Societal collapse. So her ability to intertwine social issues with speculative fiction not only earned her critical acclaim, but also sparked important conversations about the role of science fiction in examining the human experience. So basically, she was good at mixing stories about society problems with make-believe futuristic ideas, right? And it, of course, made her writing popular eventually at some point. And it just basically got people to talk about how science fiction stories can help us understand real life stuff. So basically, in so many words, that's what she did. And this is proof of what she did. So her contributions to literature extended far beyond confines of genre, making her one of the most influential writers of her time. One of Octavia Butler's most powerful quotes come from her novel Parable of the Sower, and one of my favorites, of course, like I mentioned. It says, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." Now that is something, right? Them the kind of people I like reading. See, people just think that, reading is just so boring, but it's not. It really takes you to a whole nother place. Plus, you can read about the juiciness of, like W.E.B. Du Bois and him shooting slugs at people in the 1900s. It's fun. It's really, really fun. It's something that I enjoy. So that quote is the central theme of the novel, Parable of the Sower. And it revolves around adaptability, resilience, and the transformative power of change. Now, her being able to do that, being able to weave, philosophical thoughts into narratives is what makes her work so impactful. This quote, to me, reflects her understanding of the interconnectedness of actions and consequences. And that's what I'm going to get to in a second, about actions and consequences. So her narratives were not just stories. They were profound social commentaries, but they were also, I think they were, what's the saying? Is it life imitating art or art imitating life? I don't know, because y'all have to read Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. You got to read it. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Parable of the Sower. Okay. It's real cool, intense. It was written in 1993. Okay. 93. And the story is set in future America around the 2020s. Around the 2020s. We in 2023 right now. So, things is, pretty rough. Society fall apart because all sorts of problems like climate change, economic crisis, social unrest, Those sound familiar, right? That sound familiar. Climate change. How long was the winter this year in 2023? Because I'm in Texas and we're on like about 15 days of winter. Hell, we haven't got out of summer yet. Last week? Week and a half ago? Hell, it was 85 degrees. Climate change is real. And normally around this time, it'd be cold. It would really be cold. So, and she wrote about this in her book, Parable of the Sower. So, the main character is this smart, tough girl named Lauren. She lives in a community that's trying to survive during all the chaos. The unique thing about Lauren is that she has a condition called hyperempathy. And hyperempathy means she feels other people's pain and pleasure, which makes life extra hard for her. So the story really gets going when her community is destroyed and she has to go into a journey, a dangerous journey north to find safety. Along the way, she started developing new belief system called Earthseed, which is another book I have to recommend. So, and it's all about adapting and surviving in the changing world. So the book is adventure, survival, and it's also Lauren's deep thoughts about life and the future. It's like a wake-up call about what could happen if we don't take care of the world and each other. But that is basically what's happening right now. If you just think about what's happening right now, this is exactly what's happening. Climate change, economic crisis. Economic crisis. Rent rates are just going through the roof. You cannot, single parent caring for children in 2023. It's impossible. You have to have a second income. Like it's a must in order for you to just take care of basic needs today. That is an economic crisis. That's exactly what that is. That's an economic crisis. Rent is increasing. Wages are stagnant. Rent is going up. Wages aren't going up with rent. That means if 10 years ago you was making $7.25 an hour and you was paying $500 a month for rent, now you're paying $1,200 a month for rent, still making $7.25 an hour. That's an economic crisis. That means people have to work 3 or 4 jobs, 3, 4, 5 jobs. And then you have social unrest. George Floyd was in 2020. The whole protest, that was 2020. People was outside. Then we was in a whole fucking pandemic. 1 million people died. Like, that is some shit that's in Parable of the Sower. And she also, I want to say this was in Parable of the Sower. In that same book, it talks about a figure that becomes president of the country that's a whole fucking narcissist that has like a cult of personality and has basically like a whole cult of people following him. That sound familiar too. She warned us, huh? I mean, y'all think what? You know what? Y'all think The Simpsons was stealing from Octavia Butler? Okay. I ain't on my conspiracy theory shit today. Okay, that's it for Octavia Butler. I may have maybe another episode on Octavia Butler and her writings, because her books they have you. They will have you like drowning in them. Like you would not want to put it down. Now we get into Toni Morrison, whose novels were renowned for their lyrical beauty and powerful exploration of the Black American experience. Love Toni Morrison books. A luminary in American literature, celebrated for her profound exploration of the African American experience. Her novels, characterized by rich narratives and complex characters, delve into themes of identity, history, and the enduring impact of slavery and racism. Her Pulitzer Prize winning novel, Beloved, based on the true story of an enslaved woman, is a deeply moving exploration of the trauma of slavery and its lasting legacy. Despite her critical acclaim, including a Nobel Prize in Literature, Morrison faced criticism for centering her work almost exclusively on Black characters and themes. Why would she face criticism about that? I don't see the problem. Critics often labeled her work as limiting or not universally appealing. I wonder who said that shit. A critic she famously addressed by stating, "Let me tell you, Miss Toni Morrison, she wasn't nobody to play with." This what she said when they told her her work was limiting or not universally appealing. She said this: "In this country, American means white. Everybody else has to hyphenate, okay? Shut the fuck up and sit down. I don't need you to tell me what my themes need to be central around. I'm going to talk about everybody Black." Wow. You continue to talk about everybody white, okay? And she wasn't lying, because that rings true today. The status quo is white. Anything you think of, they put it in your mind that it is white. Everything is centered around whiteness. So it's nothing wrong with her centering all her work, all her wonderful, beautiful work around Blackness. Somebody needs to do it. Why not? It needs to be a balance. I know white authors that have never written a piece of material on Black people or on Black characters. So what's wrong with her doing the same damn thing? They not being critiqued about not writing about Black people or Asian people or Hispanic people, Mexican people, or anybody other than American. They not being critiqued for it. Yet she focused all her work on Black people, Black characters, Black themes, and all of a sudden her work is not universal. But they get to do it and focus all their stuff on just them. But yet when she do it, it's somehow not universally appealing, or her work is limiting. I can name you a few, and I'm probably gonna name some of them. A few that only authors that have only spoke about nothing but white characters. So, you know, her they wasn't finna play with Miss Morrison. She said, "Fuck y'all. I'm gonna write some more about Black people." I don't care what the hell you say. She refused to conform to a literary world that often marginalized Black voices and Black stories. Her commitment to write narratives was unwavering, and she believed in the power and the necessity of these stories in the broader tapestry of American literature. She once said, "The function of freedom is to free someone else." Oh, man, am I showing a trend with these quotes or what? Like, who knew there were so many Black people that were human? Who knew? I did. Who knew so many white people were inhumane? Okay. And that quote of hers is just shows that her belief in the power of literature is to liberate and empower. That are my two words. I love empower and liberate. Morrison's work is celebrated for its profound emotional depth and its unflinching examination of the Black experience in America. Her friendship with James Baldwin, who we spoke about earlier, was both a personal and intellectual bond. Baldwin, like Morrison, explored the complexities of race and identity in America. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and shared perspectives on the role of writing in addressing societal issues. Morrison often credited Baldwin for paving the way for Black writers like herself, acknowledging his influence on her work and thought. Toni Morrison's contributions to literature and her unapologetic focus on Black life and culture left a mark on the literary world. A huge, huge mark on the literary world. Her work not only challenged the status quo, but it expanded the understanding of the American experience, highlighting the importance and the universalness of Black stories. Yes, of Black stories, and this is a Black podcast. Because that's the kind of Black shit we do. Her legacy continues to inspire and challenge readers and writers alike. Now, lastly, and I did not really quick, I didn't quote any, or I didn't give a summary of any of Toni Morrison's work, because I am also saving her for something else in the future. So I don't want to give that up. But her work, Beloved, was actually adopted into a film. So if you haven't read the book, I'm sure you probably saw the movie. But if you saw the movie, I suggest you go back and read the book. The books are always better than the movies because they take out a lot of stuff in the movies. They can't put everything that's in the book. That's why it's, technically, that's why it's considered an adaptation. So it's not everything exactly in the books. So lastly, we'll dive into the revolutionary thoughts of Frantz Fanon, a philosopher and psychiatrist whose writing on decolonization and the psychology of oppression left an unforgettable mark on post-colonial studies and the global struggle for liberation. Fanon, a revolutionary thinker and psychologist, made groundbreaking contributions to post-colonial theory and the understanding of race and identity. His work, mainly Black Skin, White Mask, and The Wretched of the Earth, delved deeply into the psychological effects of colonialism and the dynamics of racial oppression. So his analysis of the colonized psyche, including the concept of blackness in a quote unquote white dominated world was pioneering. He famously wrote, "The oppressed will always believe the worst about themselves," capturing the internalization of oppression by colonized peoples. However, Fanon's advocacy for violent resistance as a means of achieving decolonization was met with significant criticism. Of course it is. Colonization is violent. Why can't you end colonization with violence? I mean, the logic follows, even though that wasn't the thought process during the civil rights movement with nonviolent protest. That was purposely done for a reason, and Fanon talked about it, even though it hadn't happened yet. In his writings, he talked about it, and he explained why violent resistance was necessary. However, Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin and some more key figures around nonviolent protest, they didn't see it as something that was wrong or it wasn't the right way to go about it. What they were looking at it was the impact and the change that it could have if, properly carried out. So we know the idea of nonviolence as a means of protest came from, let's say MLK's philosophy behind nonviolent protest was influenced by Bayard Rustin, which Bayard Rustin's influence was heavily influenced by Gandhi. And Gandhi's idea behind nonviolent protest, Bayard Rustin saw that, and he also was a Quaker, or he was raised by Quakers. His families were Quakers. Maybe we'll talk about that too at some point, and how Quakers were sort of at the forefront of the anti-slavery movement. Quakers were very religious, but also they were, I guess you would say, morally intact, or I guess more morally intact than others. But the Quakers had, a real, I guess, like, strong sense of humanity and morality, I would say. So if you notice in the beginning of the abolitionist movement, it was led by a lot of Quakers. And so him being raised by a Quaker, I imagine some of those ideologies, carried over into his upbringing, because not many Quakers, I don't really see, I haven't seen any research that shows that, Quakers somehow changed their whole philosophy and just said, fuck it, kill everybody type shit. They really had strong views about, treating people with, respect and kindness and religion and all of that stuff. So that is what shaped his, or that's what influenced Bayard Rustin. But also in developing the strategy of non-violent as a means of protest, and this was a strategy. I am going to spend a lot of real intense time on the civil rights era, because of course that is my era. I love that era. I am obsessed. Maybe a little bit with that time. It's a lot of material on it, and I think I've said that before. It is a lot of material on it, but it's also it shows how you can develop it kind of just to me anyway, it shows how you develop different strategies in how to deal with something, and then you actually see it fully carried all the way out. And what they noticed in that era and in the era before them was violence. So the violence that white people inflicted upon black people was always instantly justified anytime a black person retaliated. It's kind of like the bully that bullies, of course, because that's what bullies do. The bully that bullies everybody, and then the bully gets beat up, and then the kid that beat him up is now the one that's in trouble because he should have been the bigger person, or some shit like that. That's why you have a real it was a real campaign of erasure of someone like Nat Turner. Also, another figure is someone like Forrest Joe and the Maroon community. The Black Maroons. Well, I think Maroons is black, but I don't know why I said that. I read somewhere Black Maroons. Or no, I'm wrong. Maroonage is, yeah, I think that's just a way of living. Anyway, the Maroon community and you have they really demonize the black people that retaliate for being hit, being with violence being acted upon us. Anytime we return the favor, we are somehow the worst person, and they completely forget that the other person just hit somebody. Like, you just hit me, but I'm somehow the bad person because I hit you back. And they saw that is what happened when black people would retaliate with violence. And then it didn't, not only did it make the black people worse, because it's the end of the world now because you hit back, but it also escalated the violent thirst of white people. And I'm not going to say white men, even though we know most of the violence was carried out by white men. I'm going to just say white people, because white women had that thirst too. They sat there at those picnics with a burning body above them, with their little children in their fucking Sunday's best dresses on, got little fucking polka dot dresses on, and damn Buster Brown shoes on and shit. and you at a fucking lynching. That's the kind of people that we dealing with, that they dealt with. It's the same like people go and, you, for one, you don't even know the whole story, but you can just go your ass up there to the lynching. They killing somebody, and you just gonna go up there. Oh yeah, we well, what are y'all doing Saturday? Oh, we going to a lynching this Saturday. Yeah, it's supposed to be a lynching of that Negro. Yeah, I forgot something he said, but he is one of a barbaric, vicious one. Yeah. So you gonna come? Yeah, I'm taking the kids. It's gonna be me, Sally, and Ben, and his father, and I packed a few little sandwiches and stuff for us. I'm gonna get us a little fruit. I think I might pick some flowers from the garden. And yeah, we're just gonna set up a whole little nice picnic in the park while we watch the lynching. Who the fuck does that? Who? In their right mind? I mean, the bestiality and gore. Like, you're not human. You are animals. Them are dogs. Animals are better. I don't even think animals sit there and watch each other get mauled. Like, I can't remember. I don't even know an animal. I can't think of it because I'm sitting here trying to catalog my mind. I cut out some shit. I done forgot some shit. So it's probably not much up there about fucking animals fighting. But I cannot remember. I don't remember seeing animals just sitting around watching each other maul each other to death. I mean, shit, a wolf maybe? I don't know. A wolf might want... I mean, shit, after I don't know. Because you don't want to jump in. It's like you jumping them. It's like, let them fight it out. And then it's like, well, shit, they good. So I'm going to go the other way. Like, why I got to sit here and watch that shit? And this is what, like, this was a, this was a family activity. This was a daily, a Saturday thing, a weekly thing. They just went and did this. And so the civil rights era was saying, you know what? We have to approach it differently, because the more we shoot back, they just going to keep shooting. And eventually it's not going to be any of us left. So let's try to appeal to their moral sense of human decency. And they wasn't trying to appeal to everybody. It was certain people that they were trying to appeal to, because you have those people that's like, oh, that's something, but I don't have nothing to do with it. Them the ones that don't, they don't say nothing. They see something wrong, but they like, well, that ain't my business. In order for society to change its norms, there has to be a few people that are willing to stand up and say something about it. Doesn't matter that, this is the way it's been done. Well, it's been done wrong. But if no one says anything about it, they'll continue to do it wrong. I mean, they did it with slavery. I mean, it was, not just slavery in Europe, but then they also allowed slavery, chattel slavery, in America. And the world sat around and watched. They sat there and watched. They knew that shit was happening. At least in Europe, they knew. I can't say that Africa, that any places specifically on the continent of Africa knew, because Africa was being colonized itself. So They was being colonized by Europe, hell. But Europe knew because they benefited from it. But they let it go on until, a small amount of society stands up and say, hey, this shit is wrong, but let's stop this. And then when one person does it, a few more people stand up to it. And then a few more people stand up to it. And then a few more people that just stands with them, but they're not the ones that's saying anything. And so society, will change. They'll eventually change. They see that, the majority of people have a problem with this. And of that majority of people, a lot of them is speaking up about it and they saying that it's wrong. So fuck it. We got to change some shit. And that's just sort of how society moves. And that's what the civil rights era was trying to appeal to. Those people who saw that it was wrong, but also was going to say something about it. And then also was going to carry the message that it was wrong. So that more people can see it and say, okay, fuck, we got to stop. We got to stop doing this shit. We got to stop. Something has to happen. Some got to give. We can't be doing this. And this is why the civil rights movement was different, because it just said we just need a different approach. Now you have somebody like Frantz Fanon back, way back when he was writing about it. He's saying that I'm not just saying that we need to end racism. We need to defeat colonialism. And colonialism is only continuing through violent oppression. They aren't just colonizing through, language or food or propaganda. They're also colonizing with violence. And the only way to combat that violence is with violence, or expect to get wiped out. And so, of course, he faced criticism for that, because anytime the black person fight back, we somehow was the worst. And this is what his critics argued, saying that his endorsement of violence was extreme and overlooked the potential for peaceful change. Now, who the fuck said that? Somebody white? Well, what the fuck you doing? Are you going out there taking people fucking guns away while they violently oppressing us and chaining us up, locking us up, fucking transporting us as humans? You sitting there talking about peaceful change. That motherfucker is violent. What you gonna do about him? Get rid of his ass and maybe we could talk about peaceful change, because he is a fucking barbarian. And not only is he a barbarian, he's a goddamn leader in the government. He don't have no fucking sympathy for nobody. He's around here giving orders for people to be barbarians. But it's something wrong with Frantz Fanon. He's wrong for saying fight violence with violence, right? Mind you, he's just not saying just willy-nilly go out there and just be violent, because that's what the fuck white people are doing. That's what they're doing in colonialism. With colonization, they are going and finding people to be violent with. Like, people they find in their own little merry old business, doing their own thing, doing their shit. And then here they coming over here colonizing. So colonization is violent. The idea of colonization is violent. Think of the language and some of the stuff that it is violent. The idea of property is violent. The idea of ownership is violent. I'm going to get into that. That's my whole my whole little spiel in the violent and how the legal system is violent in its language. Maybe I'll write a thesis on that. But I believe I deeply feel that shit. Like, seriously. So, despite the criticisms, Fanon works remains influential in understanding the complexities of race and decolonization. He challenged the prevailing notion of the time, arguing that colonialism dehumanizes both the colonizer and the colonized. That is a fucking fact. That is a fact. So he says, imperialism leaves behind germs of rot, which we must clinically detect and remove from our land, but from our mind as well. This highlights his belief in the necessity of mental liberation alongside with physical liberation. This is true. We seeing that shit right now. We are no longer physically in chains, but our minds are still in those chains. Fanon's writing on race, violence, and liberation have had a lasting impact on various fields, including psychology, political science, and post-colonial studies. His work continues to be a source of inspiration and debate, offering a profound critique of the racial and political dynamics of his time that still, of course, resonates today. Now, his insight into the human psyche, colonialism, and race relations placed him in the same league as many revered white philosophers. Yet, the recognition and reverence he receives is overshadowed by his race. Thinkers like Foucault, Hegel are staples in philosophical education, right? Widely celebrated for their contributions to understanding society and the human conditions. But look at this. Black philosophers like Fanon, who tackled equally complex and vital aspects of society, often don't receive the same level of acknowledgement in mainstream education. Think about the arts. Think about when you think of studying philosophy. Think about just when studying literature and philosophy. They bring up names and authors and poets, but you see how you instantly those people come to mind. These are white people. These are white philosophers. These are white. They call them the classics. Greek philosophy. All of that shit. You see white Greek philosophers, right? This is the same thing that they did to somebody like Fanon. His work continues to be a source of inspiration and debate. His work delved into the intricacies of identity, oppression, and liberation, offering perspectives that were deeply relevant. His analysis of colonialism and psychological effects was profound, as any exploration by his white contemporaries. The disparity in recognition raises important questions about the biases in how we value and teach philosophy, highlighting the need to broaden our understanding and appreciation of thinkers from diverse black backgrounds. His work, controversial yet influential, has inspired movements and debates on post-colonial theory. Now, I would even say I can't say that he developed post-colonial theory, but I can't see a white person developing post-colonial theory. You're the colonizer. Okay, whatever. Now, since I mentioned black skin, white mask, here's a quick overview of it. It's, of course, by Fanon. It was written in 1952. Okay, so that is, about 10, 15 years before the civil rights era. It talks about how black people in countries controlled by white people often feel like they have to act differently or hide their true selves. Have you had that feeling before? That, to me, just that line right there is just code switching. Like, to me, that's instantly code switching. He also wrote in this is, of course, the same book, Black Skin, White Mask. He talked about how black people try to fit into society that often treats them unfairly because of the race. He explained that this can make them feel confused or even hurt about their identity. That's internalized hatred, in what I often call internalized anti-blackness, because black people can be anti-black too. It's not above us. We are actually taught to be anti-black. Some stuff that you do right now, you probably wouldn't even assume that it's anti-black, but because it's so internalized, it actually is, anti-black. Here's one. I'll give you a quick example before we end this. You know how black people, I think, I'm going to say 99% of black people got rhythm and they can dance. Right. Or they can move in a rhythmic way. Okay. But have you ever saw a white person dance like a black person and you believe that somehow this dancing that he's doing is just out of this world, immaculate? We often say it because we look at it like, oh, look at that white boy get down. That's anti-black. Yep, it's anti-black. If you look at somebody like Eminem as a lyrical genius, that's anti-black. The way in which that's anti-blackness. The way in which you may fantasize or even just have you may not, I won't say you fantasize about them. You may look at somebody like a Kim Kardashian and be like, oh, she bad. Yeah, she fine. She bad. That's anti-black. Because there's somebody black that has done that and that is doing that, but you fail to recognize them, but you make it a point to point out the white person that does the exact same thing. And you put that white person up on a pedestal as if they're somehow, an anomaly or somehow good or better than the regular, average black person who do that type of shit every day. That's anti-black. Not because of, it's not you not trying to be. Some of us are trying to be. Not us. Some of them, black people, are trying to be anti-black. But society has conditioned you into thinking that way about black people, about blackness, about yourself. It's internalized anti-blackness, and we do it and we don't even know. We don't even think about it because we've been colonized so much to the point that our minds, we really have to decolonize our minds in order to get back into ourselves and centering ourselves and seeing ourselves as equal beings, and just completely getting rid of the whole idea of a hierarchy in race. But that's just stuff that those are regular everyday things that we do that's anti-black. We, ignore, dismiss, or don't even realize it, that what we're doing in saying that, even thinking that way, we're being anti-black. Now, when a white person do it, we can point it out. It's like, you're only saying that because you white. But we dismiss it when we do it because we just assume that, we are prideful and we put ourselves and our race above everything and ourselves. Like, we think automatically we wouldn't do that to ourselves. But yeah, we would. We've been taught to do it to ourselves. And so it's almost, it's second nature. It's not, it's something that, we have to deal with. We have to fix it. But the first step to us fixing that and dealing with it is, for one, we need to recognize that that's exactly what we're doing. When you see a white girl with braids and you think her hair look good, and there's a black girl who probably work with you that wear braids every day, you didn't even notice. You didn't pay no attention to it. Why does it look better on her? Why does a big ass look better on Kim Kardashian? Because Kim Kardashian just went and just did everything that is basic every day for a black woman. She just went and put it on her. And now everybody's saying that she's a fucking billionaire because of it. I don't even know if there's black people that's buying her shit or why she has a huge market share. I mean, I hope it's not black people, but I'm pretty sure there's some black people in that mix. But she is a fucking billionaire just for copying a black woman. Everything she does, it's all been done before, all been done by a black woman. But it looks better on her. And so that's my whole little thing. And I do plan to have a whole episode about internalized anti-blackness. I actually wrote an article on Medium that's also on my website, educatetoFreeUs.org, or politicaleducationforfreedom.org. And it talks about all of the different ways we internalize anti-blackness and how it's a part of our everyday lives and we don't recognize it. We've done it for so long to the point that we don't recognize it. And so going back to Frantz Fanon and white skin black mask, black people try to fit into society that treats them unfairly, and that he talks about how mentally it makes black people feel confused and hurt about their identity. And so that's how we eventually, internalize anti-blackness. He also talks about how the history of slavery and colonialism has long-lasting effects on people. So, and it was his belief that both, and this is basically what the book is about, his belief that both black and white people are harmed by racism. And it's important to understand that there's two parties that's being injured in this. And in order for us to, we have to recognize that in order for us to fix those problems. So, of course, it was written, a while back, but this is stuff you can still see today. I think it helps us think about racism affects people's minds and feelings, and also how, we should do better and, treat people better and stuff like that. And so he goes into it all the way in, much more detail, but just in a brief summary, that's basically what the book is about. But remember how long ago it was written, and you can see some of the effects of it today, and not just the effects of it, but his analysis of it. You can see how it plays out today. And you didn't have very many people writing about this during his time. Now you can probably find 20, 25 books on colonialism. I know two off the top of my head. Dr. Gerald Horne. I know 3 books I want. Yeah, Dr. Gerald Horne has at least 3 books on it. But back then, when Frantz Fanon was writing, you didn't have a lot of people writing about this. So, as we conclude our journey, it's clear that Black literature is not just a collection of work, but it's a mosaic of voices, each telling a story of struggle, resilience, and triumph. These authors, through their words, have challenged system, sparked debates, and reshaped our understanding of the world. Thank you for joining me on this enlightening exploration of Black literature. I hope these stories inspire you to dive deeper into the works and discover the richness of Black thought and expression. This is Nitra signing off from the Political Education for Freedom podcast. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep uncovering the hidden truths of our history. That is all, folks.